first edition of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour presented by Let's Go Motorhomes. It's 2 stages, starting in the Yarra Valley with the gruelling climbs on the outskirts of Healesville. The final stage, that's an individual time trial on the banks of the Yarra River in the heart of Melbourne. Hello and welcome to Healesville. I'm Matthew Keenan, joined by dual Australian Criterium champion Kimber Wells and Phil Liggett. Kimberly, the field that is lined up here includes not just some of the best in the world, but the best in the world. The world's #1 ranked cyclist, Annemiek van Vleuten.
Yeah, certainly. It's such a huge attraction for this area to have such high caliber riders here, so it's going to be fireworks.
Phil, the course itself, you've been here before with the men's Jayco Herald Sun Tour. The opening stage is a tough one.
This is a very hard course. The road is heavy, the weather is always threatening, and the hills are long, so it should make for a great race.
It's 123 kilometres. It is a tough course. Kimberly, who does it suit?
I mean, I think we know Annemiek van Vleuten. It definitely suits her. Lucy Kennedy could do well, and Katrin Garfoot's always a big threat.
Katrin Garfoot, she is a big threat. She's the Australian time trial champion, bronze and silver medal at the World Championships. David McKenzie, though, he's got his thoughts on the race. Here he is talking tactics.
We're in the heart of the Yarra Valley. This is climbers' country. Not too many flat roads around here. We've got that tough climb towards the end and then the descent. Will that be a factor? We're going to find out shortly. I caught up with a few of the ladies to get their views on this stage.
So it will be a really hard day today. Hopefully we hope not raining, because if not it will be even harder. And so then there is 2 tough climbs in the end, one in the middle way and the last one.
Yeah, I mean, the climb, it's certainly the longest climb we've had this summer. It's not a super hard climb, but having said that, a climb's as hard as you make it. So I think there's definitely potential there to really split the race apart.
Oh, hard 8-kilometer climb on the final of the race, and I think it's a really beautiful course here.
So it will be a small group coming to the end and to the last climb, and there I think the climber are gonna have a fun.
Descent's not super technical, pretty fast, but you know, a lot of pedaling involved as well. It's still close to 20k to the finish, so it could come back together depending how big the gaps are. So yeah, really not quite sure how it's going to unfold.
Let's now take a closer look at what confronts the peloton today in the Herald Sun course report. 123 kilometres starting in Healesville. It makes the journey through to Yarra Glen, and then it's on to Warburton, where they have the first of the intermediate sprints onto the first of the Queen of the Mountains points. It's back into Healesville for the second sprint. It's then up Myers Creek Road towards Talangi for the final Queen of the Mountain. They then descend down to the finish line, where the decision will be made on who gets the first of the yellow jerseys. Kimber Wells, the nervous moments are done with. The racing is underway, and you see some of the smaller teams lining up at the front, looking for the first opportunity to attack.
Yeah, that's certainly a sign of their intentions. Oh, there we see Annemiek at the back, enjoying the crowd.
Number 21, Annemiek van Vleuten, the world's #1 ranked cyclist. Phil, we've got the race director in the car, one of the great characters of the sport, a 3-time winner of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour, John Trevorrow.
And a great cyclist in his day, but I bet he never thought he would lead out the first women's Jayco Herald Sun Tour. It's a big moment for John Trevorrow in the car there. He knows the roads very, very well, and he's now taking them out at the start of this first big lap, which is 92 kilometres before we come back through that finishing line and go out on the final circuit, which is very difficult, of just over 31 kilometres.
They've made their way past the Healesville race course. They're now out past the Tarrawarra Winery, and the flag has come in, and the first person to attack is Gina Ricciardo from the Sydney Uni Staminade.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see them going from the gun, trying to get an early breakaway in the race. Could be quite interesting if they manage to do that.
I think it'll be challenging to get an early breakaway to go off the front today, because what is working against the early breakaway is the fact that the conditions are so good. This is Soraya Paladin now, who's trying to make a move for the LA Cipollini team, who feel they come here on a real high after great performance by Chloe Hosking on the weekend, who is now attacking.
Now you've got to say, Kimberly, that's a bit of a shock to see Chloe on the move here.
Yeah, definitely a big shock. Perhaps she wants to get to those hills before everyone else. Yeah, well done, Chloe.
Noted as a sprinter, she took the victory in the Deakin University Kiddo Evans Great Ocean Road Race on the weekend, which for Chloe has created automatic selection situation for the Commonwealth Games, so she is delighted. And I think she wants a head start before they hit the hills.
Oh, yep, great move. And I mean, I think you can see with riders, once they achieve some early season goals, they start to relax a bit more. Automatic selection to Com Games. So Chloe's already won at that Cadell's race, and hopefully she'll be able to do well today or help out her teammates.
She's very determined here. She's caused a split in the big field, and she's checking on that now. Now she sees she's got the split, she's making the others come and do some work with her. I think she's got newfound confidence this year. She knows she's a sprinter, but she also feels she can ride a race. This is Shannon Malseed, the new owner of the red, green and gold, or the white, green and gold rather, champion of Australia.
Former teammate of yours, Kimberley, Shannon Malseed, this is a big step up for her in 2018.
I mean, huge step up. Shannon's coming into the year as the newly crowned Australian road racing champion. So she's doing her first year as a pro overseas, wearing the green and gold. I mean, there's nothing more special than that, so hopefully she's going to have a good season.
This is the green and gold of a different kind. This is the Quartermenta Real Estate Australian national team. And this is a mix together of riders that are with various international teams coming here together to form the national squad for this event. And that was Rachel Nayland at the back. She's a former silver medalist at the World Championships. As we now focus on Giorgia Bronzini, and you can see the rainbow bands around the sleeve. Bronzini is a dual world champion.
Interesting, these early kilometres now. A lot of big names are seemingly quite nervous here. This is a very difficult course, and they've moved up and they've got off to a good speed straight away. Number 21 there, the world number 1, is Annemiek van Vleuten. She looks pretty cool. She was last out the starting block. She's moved up a bit.
And she looked like she was enjoying herself
Yes.
as she was leaving Hillsville.
Well, she should do. She's a very good bike rider.
This is Catherine Buss at the front for the Tibco squad. This is one of the teammates of the Australian champion, Shannon Malseed. Some of the early moves to try and force a breakaway, but the peloton is so attentive and they're not letting the moves stick. As Chloe, after having been brought back from her attempt to break away, it's an early lunch.
Oh, you've got to keep your energy up on a day like today. I mean, all the riders are going to want to do that. These roads are hilly and they're rough. They're going to really take the sting in the legs, I think.
It's Emma Grant just behind her, now out of the saddle with a little bit of pink on her gloves. It's hard to believe that she's wearing long-fingered gloves with arm warmers when on the weekend it was 40 degrees. Number 11 for the Wiggle High 5 team. This is Annette Edmondson, who was brilliant on Thursday. She won the race around Albert Park. That was Towards Zero Race Melbourne. A race for the sprinters. Annette Edmondson is definitely a sprinter. Like Chloe Hosking, she won't particularly like this course.
No, I think she's going to find this a different kettle of fish altogether. There's been a crash here, or is it just a flat tyre?
So this is a fall indeed. This is a crash. This is one of the Italians. This is Francesca Pataro from the B Pink squad. She has come down. Fortunately, she looks to be okay-ish. The bike is not in such good condition, but you're a medical doctor, Kimberley. You can give us the assessment.
Oh, look, I mean, it always hurts to come down pretty hard from the bike, but looks like she's pretty keen to continue, and hopefully she can tuck herself into the convoy there and make up some ground.
That's the challenge for her, Phil. The convoy is
Wow.
a long way off.
Oof.
I don't think she's going to get back. You never know that, because she's been pushed off. The convoy's well gone. There were a number of fallers here, but the rest have gone up and ridden away from her. So she's looking at her wounds there. We'll see. It's a tough fight to get back. We've got an attack anyway.
This is the Sydney Uni Staminate team, and this looks like it's the shape of Jade Collagen that's going off the front.
I've really enjoyed how attacking the Sydney Uni team has been this summer, actually. They've really decided to put themselves out there, and this is a great example.
This is Colligan, who is going forward. They have been in everything throughout the past couple of races that we've seen throughout the week, and then on the weekend they've always been represented in the breakaways. One of the smaller teams. They don't have a rider that can win head-to-head with the likes of Van Vleuten or Bronzini on the front foot as we're heading towards Warburton and the first of the intermediate sprints.
Well, that crash happened around 51 kilometres. The first sprint is 57 kilometres. She has gone more or less after that crash. She wouldn't have known about the crash, but she's put in a move. I think they'll watch her rather than chase her just for the moment. And the clouds are getting higher now. We had some very heavy overnight rain here. Hopefully it'll go away.
The stunning Yarra Valley as they make their way towards Warburton. Rachel Nayland off to the left-hand side of the screen with the white jersey on, just stretching the back. She'll be looking forward to the climbs.
Stretching that back out, ready to start climbing, I think.
Back with Jade off the front for Sydney Uni Staminade. You can see the tape that she's got on the top of the top tube there of the bike. Often we see that on the headstem of the bike, but it's just a little bit too small. So she's used the top tube of the bike. Her time advantage as she approaches Warburton, it's touching on 30 seconds. So it looks as if, well, it might be a little bit less than that now. 30 seconds or thereabout. She's a chance to hold on for the intermediate sprint.
It's going to be touch and go, and remember the small time bonuses, as always at these intermediate sprints. 3 seconds for the winner, 2 and 1, and in a 2-day race it could be absolutely crucial, and so the sprinters behind may not want this one to go clear. They're going to monitor it. 50 kilometres covered.
I mean, I think there's going to be some sprinters that would be pretty hungry for these intermediate sprints, given how many hills they're going to have to do later in the stage. I know if I was out there, I'd be pretty keen.
Well, for a rider like Chloe Hosking, you'd expect the sprint classification to be a target for her. Her LA Cipollini team, they've been very active. That's not them quite at the front chasing, but those bright colours are near the front. And it looked as if it was the Sydney Uni Staminate team that were on the front chasing, but I'd suggest that's the Be Pink team who are at the front, and they have almost identical kit. Thumbs up from Jade. She's pretty happy with the situation.
She's very happy in that she knows that they're monitoring her escape here. It looked to be about 10 or 12 seconds, that's all. She's sticking to her guns.
You just saw the sign for Mount Donovan. She'll be very pleased they don't go straight in Warburton. They turn right. There is a tough climb once they do turn right, but as she heads towards the Gatorade intermediate sprint point, they'll make the right-hand turn, and then they go up to the Gumbaya World Queen of the Mountains spot.
Yeah, I mean, the legs are going to be stinging for whoever decides to go for that intermediate sprint, and then you've got to think about, I need to recover really quickly because we're about to start climbing.
The clouds, they're still hanging in. The conditions, despite the roads being slightly wet, the actual temperature is perfect for racing.
It's a magnificent day for bike racing right now. Look at the countryside as well. The creeks are high, of course. It was pretty torrential, the rain, overnight. But these gum trees, it's stunning scenery here. Now she's coming up to this sprint in Warburton, and they're not going to catch her. In fact, she's pulled away very slightly on that field. So rather surprisingly, she's tempted them to come and join her. They haven't. There she's crossed the line. 3 seconds time bonus. She's not only the leader on the road, she's the leader on time, for the moment at least.
So Jade Colligan from the Sydney Uni Staminate team picking up some points in the race for the Gatorade points classification. 6 points for her. Chloe Hosking in second position, and Alison Jackson in third place, who's a very quick sprinter.
Yeah, I mean, Alison Jackson from the Tidco team is a very tidy sprinter, so seeing her coming in third there with Chloe Hosking in front of her, not a surprise. But yeah, that's a good sign that she's hungry for a sprint jersey.
Start of the climb, and you can see she's shifted to the small chain ring. The cadence is nice and high. This is a difficult climb, not as long as the big one towards the end of the stage, but this is anything but easy.
Talking of Alison Jackson there, she was telling me that she came from Alberta to these summer cycling events, and there was a temperature change of 50 degrees Celsius between Alberta and racing here. That's amazing, eh?
That takes some effort to adapt to. Number 66 down towards the back of the peloton, that's Taylor Wiles, former member of the Mitchelton Scott team. She's across at Trek Drops for 2018. The peloton, they've hit the lower slopes of this first major obstacle of the day, and already the pressure at the back is starting to tell.
Yeah, you can see a number of riders starting to drop off there on the earlier slopes of this climb. That's really going to start hurting.
This is Mayuka Hagawara at the front for LA Cipollini. Brody Chapman is just behind her in second position. It's then the Japanese national champion, Yanomine, that is just in third spot, starting to get towards the business end of this climb. Shannon Molseed is also showing herself right at the front.
The Yarra Valley is just 1 hour's drive from Melbourne. You simply follow the Yarra River. Once you're there, you will see the beauty of this countryside that surrounds this area. You'll come face to face with unique Australian wildlife. You can dine in the many wineries around the area. You can enjoy stunning views. And of course, if you're lucky, you might catch up with a koala, who no doubt is looking down on the riders today.
63 kilometres to go. The peloton approaching the first serious climb of the day. Sitting on the right-hand side of the peloton in the bright fluoro colours, the second of those two riders is Chloe Hosking. She's got brilliant form at the moment, Chloe Hosking, and she's one of the big stars of Australian cycling with her eyes firmly on the Tokyo
But
Olympics.
the speed of Chloe Hosking is going to be too much for them all as she hits the line.
I think particularly since this off-season, I took a step back and I said, okay, what do I want to achieve? And at the end of the day, that's Olympic gold. And, you know, I failed miserably in London. I want to go out on top in Tokyo, and that really enabled me to say, what do I need to achieve that? And sort of just, you know, start ticking those boxes.
Oh, what's not to like about seeing a win on the Champs-Élysées? Any win's great, but that was pretty special. We were pretty excited with that.
Well, it's fantastic following the women's cycling. I mean, it's great to follow. I love going over to Europe and watching the races there, and I like watching all the girls, and especially the Aussies and that. And yeah, to see their success, they've done really well.
Oh, that's awesome!
I'm still learning how to manage myself. I think it's about, you know, just preparing as best as possible. You know, I've sort of narrowed it down to 3 things that I really want to work on from now until Tokyo, and that's body composition, delivering under pressure, and transitioning not from this pure, like, not just pigeoning myself into being like a pure sprinter, but being able to deliver on tougher courses. And that's a mouthful. Obviously, I struggled getting it out, but that's sort of what I'm working on, and I feel like if I tick those 3 things, then I'll be putting myself in really good stead to get selected for Tokyo and then to perform in Tokyo.
It's a constant looking at the Twitter, trying to follow the races, see what's happening. I remember like the first year that she rode professional with High Road, we woke up one morning to see on the Twitter feed or whatever that she was being taken off in an ambulance with a neck brace on, and that was horrific. So we just try and, you know, follow as much as we can. You know, she crashed in Adelaide. It's like, oh my God, there she goes again type thing. So yeah, it's a constant thing, like all parents, I think.
And I think that, you know, the depth is really growing, and you saw it in the national championships. You've seen it in this summer racing. There's been some really great racing, and it's not just the international riders up there, you know, it's the domestic riders, and that's only a good thing for women's cycling in Australia.
Kimberly, that was you in the background behind Georgia Bronzini and Chloe Hosking, so you know both of them incredibly well. She's so honest with herself, Chloe.
Yeah, I mean, Chloe says it how it is, and I think that's really refreshing, actually, to hear her say that sort of stuff.
The peloton now, they're at the early part of this climb. There's a little bit of nervous tension as riders are looking to try and move themselves to the front. Meanwhile, at the back of the peloton, Phil, it's merely survival.
It is, it's a battle now. These are very heavy roads. You feel as though you're stuck to them sometimes. Now they wound back in Jay Collingham just after Warburton. We're now approaching the climb, which comes pretty soon, and there's a problem on the left there.
This is Swinkles, one of the sprinters from the LA Cipollini team, a rear wheel puncher, and it could not happen at a worse time.
So disappointing, such bad timing to get a puncture. The peloton's slowly but surely getting away from you on that hill.
She's normally one of the lead-out riders to support Chloe Hosking on flat races like we saw last weekend around Albert Park. But she's calm, she's cool, she's collected. She knows this isn't the sort of day for her, so panicking won't make it all happen any quicker.
No, it certainly won't.
She's got riders just going past her. She might well climb back into this. We're only heading up towards the 63-kilometre point, halfway distance here.
This is halfway up the climb, and Brodie Chapman from the Quartermentha real estate team, who was the last rider selected for the Australian national team, is making a really bold move.
Wow, I wouldn't have predicted that. She's certainly going for it. I think they've got a little bit of descent here up this first QOM before it climbs again to the top of the hill. So, yeah, interesting move by Brodie Chapman.
She's had a really good summer. Phil, we saw her at the National Championships around Buninyong.
Yep.
She was in that select front group. She finished in 6th position. That'll give her lots of confidence.
Well, she's over the top. Now, these roads have to be shown a little respect here because of the overnight rain. The roads can be slippery if they're caught in the shade of the trees, but it's quite a tortuous descent here.
Look at the gap that she's already opening up. It is slippery. You can see the roads are still slightly damp, but this is a rider who will benefit from a technical descent She started out as a cyclist, as a downhill mountain biker. This stuff is easy.
Brodie is loving this. I'm telling you right now, a downhill mountain biker off the front of the race by herself, she can finally descend just as fast as she wants to.
Everybody else will be using the brakes at this point. She's pedaling through the corners.
Yes, she is, and she's going quicker than the motorbike right now. Has just indicated, go by me, because she can descend quicker than he can. She's got some skill going downhill, I'll give her that.
And look at the gaps that she was opening up on our cameraman going through those corners.
Yeah, it's amazing. Actually, I love watching a good descent, so yeah, well done, Brodie Chapman. That's a great move.
Nobody taking any chances. I think that's because there's still a long way to go, and the big climb of St. Leonard still to come, so they're not taking too many risks here.
Well, we're caught back in a little bit of traffic here. These were some of the riders that were dropped on the way up, trying to rejoin on the way down, as we go to the front of the race once again, and Brodie Chapman very quickly has already built up an advantage of almost 20 seconds.
You can see the way she goes down. She's taking a racing driver's line on this descent. She's riding extremely well. She's keeping the gears low. We're on a slight rise again now. This is a false flat, if you like. She has a little strange bobbing style. It's unusual, but she seems to be doing it quite effectively here.
Oh, what do people normally do for their holidays? Because Brodie Chapman, to be able to ride this race, has had to apply for some annual leave from work.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, she's working a full-time office job. She's just moved from Melbourne to Sydney, and now here she is in a UCI 2.2 race, off the front of some of the best riders in the world.
This is the Japanese national champion, Yonemine, who's riding for the Wiggle High Five team. She's trying to move forward, but she's not making any progress on Brodie Chapman as the climbing starts again.
Yeah, this is a brave effort, but I think there's a little group behind her there. I've got her in her sights. But here's Brodie, and she's dancing on those pedals nicely at the moment.
What do you make of this move tactically for the Quartermenta real estate team? That's a team that's got one of the big favourites, Katrin Garfoot.
I mean, it definitely protects the interests of Kat Garfoot, sending a rider up the road. And also you've got the incentive there of trying to go for that polka dot Queen of the Mountains jersey there. It's going to put pressure on some of the other climbers.
Look at the sprinter surviving on the right-hand side of the screen in the bright fluoro colours, still hanging in there, no problem. Chloe Hosking. 30 seconds now the advantage for Chapman, as she's almost at the top of the climb, looking to collect points in the Gumbaya World Queen of the Mountains classification.
And that'll take us through 63 kilometres covered, and then we'll get back round to Hillsville and see the end of this big 90-kilometre lap. Well, she's thrown the gauntlet down, and they've started a woman down, haven't they, Kimberly, because of the sickness to Loretta Hansen?
Yeah, so they lost Loretta Hansen to some illness, so she didn't even take the start line today. And Loretta's really been a key rider in some of the successes of that team over summer, so it's disappointing for her, but hopefully she can get better soon.
At the back of the peloton, number 23, that's Jessica Allen that you saw from the Mitchelton Scott team. She'll be hoping to limit the losses in the last 500 metres, rejoin on the descent, and then she'll be a key worker for Annemiek van Vleuten, another one of the big favourites, as they try and contain 146 Brodie Chapman.
200 metres from the summit, and the points are almost in the bag here in the first Queen of the Mountains. There's only 2 climbs in this race, and the winner with the most points will win that title by the end of the day.
It's great to grab some early points in that QOM competition, so this is a great move, and Brodie's putting some pressure on the other climbers from the other teams.
Once she does get over the top, this is a much more technical descent than the second one that heads down towards the finish line. There's the white flag, so points in the race for the Gumbaya World Queen of the Mountains classification going to Brodie Chapman from Quartermenta Real Estate.
Yeah, it's an impressive move, so well done, Brodie.
And not easing off those pedals at all, so she's not gone for the Queen of the Mountains as she's pushing on here. These roads will stay pretty hard and aggressive for quite a while as we return towards Hillsville now.
It's looking a little bit wet, so some of the riders in the peloton might be a little bit wary.
Oh,
here's a problem.
Whoa.
As soon as they've gone over the top, and that looks
Look at
like
this.
Gracie Elvin is clawing her way literally out of the ditch. Number 12, that is Amy Cure, and just going over the top from the Trek Drops team.
Looks like Molly Weaver.
Molly Weaver in slow motion.
Oh gosh, I mean,
wow.
That's certainly a big Big moment.
This was the big fear because of the rain has made the surface pretty slippery here.
Well, how much of an opportunity is this for Brodie Chapman?
I mean, that's certainly going to let her get much further
Another
down
one.
the road.
Oh, this is so much to replay. This is Gracie coming out. She went a fair way into the ditch there.
Wow, that must have been at quite a bit of speed there. It looks like Amy Cure, one of the track riders from Wiggle High Five.
That's a nice landing from Molly Weaver. Not too much damage done, if any. Brodie Chapman now, she's off the descent. 25 seconds is her gap, and she's enjoying herself.
Well, she's missed out on all the accidents behind there.
Well, this is a group of riders
Chloe Hosking.
Yeah.
trying to get themselves organised. Number 31 is Chloe Hosking.
She just needs to sit there. I mean, she's got Rachel Nayland working hard for Katrin Garfoot, and it looks like Annemiek van Vleuten there as well.
Van Vleuten is there. Also there for the Wiggle High Five team. That's the French woman, Audrey Cordon.
Yeah, I mean, she could do well today.
She's a world-class cyclist. She is impressive. This group, this is near the front of the race, and it's split up on the way down as a result of the fall. And it's great to see Chloe Hosking in such a mountainous point of the race at the front.
I mean, Chloe's just getting better and better with her climbing.
I think she's got a lot of confidence this year. But just look at the face there of Brodie. She is absolutely concentrating. There's Chloe Hoskins, 31.
And the two riders in the Australian national colours for the Quartamenta real estate team, they're trying to nullify the chase. So too, also coming through in those same colours, that is Tiffany Cromwell, because they're the teammates of Brodie Chapman.
Yeah, they're doing a great supporting role for Brodie. They're not going to chase her down. They're going to watch other teams try and bridge that gap and use energy that they're going to save for later in the race up that big definitive climb.
Rule number 1 for junior sport, have fun. Rule number 2, remember rule number 1. Brodie Chapman is doing rule 1 and 2 together.
She's smiling away here, and she's pedaling with terrific power. She's used her downhill skill coming off that mountain. She's slightly increased her lead. They need to get organised now at the back. This looks as though we've got here Janelle Crooks trying to get across, number 25.
With Tagliaferro from the Silence Pro Cycling team. And this is the second group.
She's coming across to the next chase group.
They are, and that's Brodie Chapman just off in the distance going around the corner. That's a group of around about 10 or 12 who are chasing and trying to get themselves organised.
You can see Emma Grant from the Tibco team. She's a handy climber riding there with Chloe Hosking.
This is the chase group trying to close it down on the leader, and Chloe Hosking has been so active. One of the first riders to attack, and she is still on the move. Tiff Cromwell is also in this group. She's in the white jersey on the left-hand side of the screen, a teammate of Brodie Chapman, so she gets to play the role of the passenger. She does not need to work within this group.
Watchful waiting for Tiff. It's a good place to be in.
Ella Bloor is also there for the Specialised Women's Racing team.
Katrin Hams is there as well from Germany. So it's a nice little strong group. I think there's around about 14 women coming together there, and they're all ganging up on this one rider, but they're not catching her.
And she's not waiting.
I don't blame her.
No, not waiting at all. I mean, it is hard as a solo rider trying to hold off a group of 12, 13 riders behind you, but she's certainly showing a lot of heart.
Well, they've got themselves organised. They've got her in their sights now, so surely she's going to come back to this group now. 13 women chasing one.
And the peloton is at more than 1 minute behind, so perhaps for Brodie at this point, that group is only a matter of 10 seconds behind her. Maybe it's time to wait and try and sit on some wheels, as now she's about to be caught.
Yeah, she heard you there, Matt. We're coming together, nice little workman-like group here. But I'll tell you one thing, the Mitchelton Scott team have only got one woman in this escape.
And it's the youngest rider on their team, Janelle Crooks.
It's a lot of pressure to be in that group as the sole rider from Mitchelton Scott.
Yep. And names like Garford missing as well. Big names not here.
I wonder if they're feeling the pressure behind. They've got no race radios, so there's no way to communicate between each other, but certainly they've got to be thinking about how to play this.
Chloe Hosking in the fluoro colours for LA Cipollini. Oh. She is really buoyed in confidence with that performance on the weekend. She is driving this breakaway group.
Absolutely fantastic to see.
Number 53 going through, that is Emma Grant. She's a really strong climber.
Bit of reluctance to roll through there.
A little bit of disorganisation here at this point. This can hurt them. Number 143, Tiffany Cromwell. She's trying to get them organised. She's one of the more experienced riders in this breakaway group.
And I mean, Tiff is in a position now where she's going to have to do a little bit of work if Brodie's going to sit back there as the climber for the day.
Well, this will certainly be catching the attention of Jean Bates, who is the sports director for Mitchelton Scott, because the rider Katrin Harms from Trek Drops, the German who you mentioned just a moment ago, Phil, he's one of the riders that Jean has spoken about that they need to keep an eye on.
This is Eric at the back here, and we're getting through a feeding zone here. This is the peloton. Not surprisingly, Mitchell and Scott are on the front. They'll be aware of missing a very serious move here, and they've only got one rider up.
Peter Mullins just going through the picture caught your attention, Kimberly. She's had a fall. She's back in the race.
Yeah, I mean, she's certainly missing a fair bit of skin on that left side, I'm presuming from that crash on the first QOM descent.
Did you see the colours of all the riders at the front of the peloton? We return to the breakaway group. Janelle Crooks is here from Mitchelton Scott, but all her teammates are on the front of the peloton doing the chasing for Annemiek van Vleuten, and there they are.
And they are heading into Healesville with a lead of about 1 minute and 25 seconds. That's a big lead because we've just got the small circuit to go.
This is Ella Bloor at the back of the group. Number 25 is the rider from Mitchelton Scott. She won't be contributing. Heading towards Healesville. There's more points on offer for the Gatorade sprint classification. A little bit of negotiation at the front. They're not quite sure whether they are going to sprint for it or not.
Oh, Chloe.
And now they go. Chloe trying to pick up the points. And with second place in the first sprint in Warburton, first place into Healesville, it will be Chloe Hosking, who is the leader of the Gatorade sprint classification. No surprises there.
No surprises there. She was certainly hungry to go after that sprint classification jersey, and it's good to see her pulling it off.
Nayes Garcia was in second position and Tagliaferro was in third place. This is back with the remnants of the peloton. They're heading towards the base of Myers Creek Road. This is an 8-kilometre climb and it is brutal.
The Yarra Valley is a well-renowned wine-growing region that is famous for extraordinary food and wine experiences. With over 90 wineries, it can also boast cider houses, microbreweries and distilleries. You can meet the makers and the bakers and all of the exciting artisan producers. And of course, there's always the odd kangaroo around as well, as we get back to the action.
This is the leading group. They're now onto the climb of Myers Creek Road. This takes them to Talangi, and it is Tiffany Cromwell for Quartermentha Real Estate, the Australian national team, who's on the front, driving the pace and being matched pedal stroke for pedal stroke by the sprinter Chloe Hosking.
I'm really surprised by Chloe Hosking really going after it today, but as we said, that confidence from winning the Cadell's race.
This is Jessica Allen. She's leading the peloton. She's doing the job for her teammate, the world's #1 ranked cyclist, Annemiek van Vleuten.
You can see they're feeling the pressure of having that group of 13 riders ahead of them, and they're trying to close in that time gap before they hit that big hill.
And in a really good position, the rider in the white jersey with the yellow helmet on for the Quartermentha Real Estate team, that is Katrin Garfoot, the Australian time trial champion. She's got two mates in this leading group with Chloe Hosking. She can just sit and wait.
Well, I'm really surprised at the way she's driving this. She knows what's up ahead, and that is a very, very hard climb of Mount St. Leonard.
This is Lucy Kennedy now attacking. This is still on the lower slopes of the climb. The reaction, though, that is coming from Katrin Garfoot. First and second from the Australian Championships in the time trial.
I mean, haven't we seen a big battle between these two all summer?
Lucy Kennedy, Phil, 12 months ago, she was on the brink of a breakthrough. Now she's made it up into the biggest team in Australian cycling. This is a chance for her to prove herself.
Yes, but very, very alert there was Katrin Garfoot, the runner-up in the World Road Race Championship last year, well as being a world champion as well.
This is the back of the breakaway group, which is also starting to split up. And Brodie Chapman, once again, this is Hams, the German from Trek Drops, who is at the front. And the reaction is coming from the first rider to really force a big breakaway. And Brodie Chapman, so much for being a downhill mountain biker, she's an uphill road cyclist.
She's taken about half an hour's rest to recover from that long break she had, and she's at it again here. Hams is riding really, really well. She was up over the Warburton Mountain right behind Chapman, albeit by a little bit of time. But now she's driving the pace, and immediately Chapman hooks up.
And this puts Mitchelton Scott on the defensive, because the rider that they had in the breakaway, Janelle Crooks, she's in that next group of 3 chasing.
They're really going to want to get someone up there.
This is the remnants of that breakaway group. They're now about to be caught by the main part of the peloton as Tiffany Cromwell is slowly drifting backwards, but she has done her job to try and set up Brodie Chapman, who is still at the front of the race. And here she is now, the head of the race again. It's Chapman on her own.
Absolutely amazing. I think she sensed that they were being caught by that group, because there was a lot of reaction from that group. And because this climb is so steep and so long, that big chasing pack is not out of this race. They'll start picking them off. And she sensed this, and she's going again.
And she's still holding on to a 30-second plus advantage on the main peloton. Kimberley, she's in a brilliant position.
This is fantastic riding by the Quarter Mentha squad. Fantastic riding by Brodie Chapman.
Catherine Hames now from Trek Drops. She's in second position on the road, and there's nothing she can do about the riding of Brodie Chapman, who is disappearing off through the ferns and into the distance.
Now you can tell by her body language here, she couldn't hold on to Brodie, and she's coming back towards the race very, very quickly.
And this is a big move, and again, it is Lucy Kennedy who is charging out of the saddle from middle distance running to brilliant climbing. It is Kennedy who is on the charge.
Well, they're trying to repair the damage. They missed the early moves, only Janelle Cook for Mitchelton Scott, and now they're trying to reduce that damage margin, and there's still time to do it, you know. There's some strong riders coming to the fore here.
Just behind her, that is Garfoot. The next position in the green colours is Anushka Costa, the former Dutch national champion.
And just take a look behind. There's a bit of carnage back there now as they start to split up. What a lovely view that really is. And right at the roots, we have Brodie Chapman.
21 kilometres to go. Still a fair way before she gets to the top of the climb. And then it is slightly downhill into Talangi. They then make the left-hand turn, and then she starts to get onto the technical part of the descent, which she will really like.
Yeah, Brodie's going to really enjoy that descent. I mean, it's a long climb. It's 8 kilometres, so anything can happen, and there's a lot of movement behind her.
And Harms isn't done with yet. There she is from the Trek Drops team. She is losing ground, but look off into the distance. The big favourites, like Garfoot, the teammate of Chapman, Annemiek van Vleuten, they're nowhere to be seen.
She's keeping her rhythm, that's for sure. Here's the group, which is looking a little bit ragged at the back, but they're forcing at the front now.
This is Korovar in the green colours. She was in that peloton that was the breakaway, and now she's been caught by her teammate, and Kennedy, the third time to the well.
She's come up to them and she's jumped them, and that was the remnants of that 13-woman chase group, and now she's trying to repair matters here.
And look at the respect that Garfoot in the white colours is showing Kennedy. 2 Queenslanders, first and second at the National Championships. Every time Kennedy goes, Garfoot responds.
Well, Garfoot's come back into Australia, given up her chance on Mitchelton Scott. She was Kennedy's teammate, just to try for the Commonwealth Games. But I've never seen Brodie Chapman race before. Why have we taken so long to see how good she is?
I mean, we saw Brodie Chapman come 6th at the Australian National Champions this year, and I'm really starting to see why.
Well, she had a horrible crash early last year, which pretty much put an end to her entire 2017. She's come back in early 2018, full of confidence, full of ambition, and she's only 100 metres from the top of the climb. She will be the winner of the Gumbile World Queen of the Mountains classification, but I think she's got her eyes on yellow.
Well, why not? She doesn't seem to show any respect at all to the quality of this field. There's the white flag. She is, and she's not waving it, by the way. She's over the top there with maximum points, 2 out of 2. She is the Queen of the Mountain.
The lookout at St Leonard's, that's off to the right. Strawberry picking to the left, but Yellow Jersey plucking is straight ahead, and it's onto the big chain ring, destination Hillsville. Now it's the challenge to get back into that rhythm. This is at the top of the climb, and this is the first move from Annemiek van Vleuten. So it's been Kennedy who has been getting the jam jar loose, and now it's Van Vleuten who opens it up.
That's a good move by Annemiek. There's going to be a lot of tired legs there. We've seen Kat Garfoot chasing Kennedy's every move.
And 2 of her teammates in that group of 5. Georgia Williams, the New Zealand national champion, and Lucy Kennedy. So they won't be chasing Van Vleuten, as they'll have faith that Van Vleuten can catch this rider, Chapman, who's been off the front now for more than 50 kilometres.
And don't forget this girl here, Katrin Hams, because she is actually in the middle between the two of them. Van Vleuten was third on the road there. The roads have dried out now nicely.
And the road in front of her is empty.
Empty. She wants to know what's happening behind. I'm not sure how well she speaks English. 15 kilometres to go. This is the Annemiek van Vleuten, the world #1 and the world time trial champion.
If Chapman hears that the world time trial champion is chasing, what does that do to her morale?
That's either going to make her go a lot faster or scare the living daylights out of her.
Do you know, I don't think this young lady up front is scared of anything. I think she's just enjoying the bike race.
This is the next group on the road. In the green colours, it's Sabrina Stilton, who was brilliant on the weekend.
Yes.
Also there is Kennedy and Williams. And now the catch is on for Van Vleuten. This is Hams that she's now caught. One down, one to go.
So we've got two in effect chasing now, just the one rider out front. And let's remind ourselves that this woman started attacking Brodie Chapman 60 kilometres into this race, and now we're running down towards the finish.
A quick look over the shoulder and the flick of the elbow, Kimberly.
And a big no from Annemiek.
She needs time to recover.
There we go.
She attacks. She doesn't want to work turns with her. She wants to go on her own. She goes straight over the top. She senses the weakness.
She waited, watched and hit her. She doesn't want any company. She wants to get into her time trial format and go for this woman. Wheel for wheel, one for one.
Well, we know that Brodie Chapman arrives with career best form. But did anybody genuinely expect this?
No, I don't think we could have predicted this before the race started. But it's certainly this cat and mouse scenario that we've got here with Annemiek, the world time trial champion, hunting down solo rider Brodie Chapman. This is fantastic racing.
Just watching the descent here, Matt, reminds me of Rio de Janeiro 2 years ago, the descent to the finish there where Annemiek had that horrendous crash, and I wonder if she's lost just an edge of a nerve on those descents now.
Well, somebody who hasn't is Brodie Chapman.
Yeah.
We've spoken about it already as a former downhill mountain biker. I had a chat with Mark O'Brien, who's a coach. He's been a top 10 at national championships. He's ridden with Brodie Chapman, and he has said she is flying. But can she be flying so well that she holds off at Van Vleuten?
I mean, that's the question. She's spent so much time and energy off the front in this race, whereas Annemiek hasn't, so...
The gap is just 15 seconds. That's the latest that we're hearing. And Brodie going past the school kids. It's the first day back at school. And Phil, she's racing against the world's #1, and she takes time to wave and say hello.
There's something special here. There really is. As she continues to race down towards Healesville, there is very little gap. 5 kilometres out as we're heading in towards the finish. We're only looking at seconds here.
Does Van Vleuten wave to the school kids?
Yeah. She just went round the corner, by the way. The leader, she's coming up on her.
Well, Annemiek can see her.
5 kilometres to go, regardless of the outcome. Today, a star of Australian cycling has arrived.
Agreed. I think we'll all agree on that, Kimberly.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree to that.
Van Vleuten looks like she's really struggling to get her rhythm. Although it's predominantly downhill, there's these little rollers, and there it is within her sights. There's no waiting. She can almost reach out and grab Brodie Chapman, but she's going to have to go across because Chapman is not providing table service. You have to go to the bill and collect yourself.
I wonder what Annemiek van Vleuten is thinking right now. She can see her, she can almost touch her, she can't quite catch her, and the kilometres are ticking over.
I mean, Annemiek looks like she's really hurting and putting in that effort, but there's a certain sense of relief once you can see someone up the road, which makes that catch just that bit more feasible.
It must be harder trying to hold off at the front than what it is chasing, but look at the pain etched on the face of Annemiek van Vleuten.
Well, look
1
at this.
kilometre to go.
Oh my goodness me, she's through 1 kilometre. We flip left here. Now will we see her? How close is she as we come around the corner? There she is. That's a winning distance, surely.
Well, it's a flat run through to the finish. Chapman can't afford to waste energy looking over the shoulder. To her advantage is a slight tailwind.
Slight tailwind, fantastic, but how burnt are her legs right now?
And you could see the body language of Van Vleuten. She was rocking and rolling the hips. It's Brodie Chapman. She cannot afford to celebrate early. She needs maximum time gains with the time trial tomorrow. Van Vleuten is sprinting, but it's Brodie Chapman who is the champion in Hillsville. Time to celebrate that can wait, because time gains are the most important. But today, Chapman is the hero. Smile time with Van Vleuten in second position, and the time gap with a little bit of a bunny hop over the speed hump. It's 8 seconds to Van Vleuten, who is exhausted. The sprint is on for the minor placings, and once again it's Chloe Hosking who is in the mix. Garfoot is desperately trying to challenge, but it is Hosking who holds on for third. Amazing performance by Chloe Hosking, so too Annemiek van Vleuten, but the hero of the day, without question, is the smiling Brodie Chapman.
Presentations will be held here shortly, so stick around for the
Oh my God, I got the 2 combs as well.
Chapman has her moment celebrating with Rachel Neyland. Today, she was the hero. The dramatic final moments for Brodie Chapman as she had enough in the tank to hold off the world time trial champion, Annemiek van Vleuten. And then as a homage to her mountain bike background, just a little bit sideways over the top of the speed hump, Van Vleuten was exhausted across the finish line and collapsed just 50 metres later, and the sprint for third. It was Chloe Hosking leading home the peloton. Brodie Chapman embracing with Rachel Neyland. Let's now hear from the winner.
Yeah, well, the plan was for me to always give that first QOM a crack, and then I knew that if I went in the first little lump, then I could make the most of the descent between the second little lump. So yeah, and then there was no one behind me, and I just decided to try and go as fast as I could. I didn't really want to sit up. I was like, well, they can get to me, and I was hoping I had a teammate in the chase group, and thank the Lords, I had Tiff Cromwell, who's very smart, and she looked after me so well.
Did you hear that Annemiek van Vleuten was trying to come across, or could you see her? It's not every day you have a world time trialist trying to close the gap and they can't do it.
I didn't realise it was her. They were telling me that there was a gap that was closing, and I was just like, oh man, I don't really want to know. I just want to keep riding as hard as I can to the finish. But to know that it was Annemiek makes me feel pretty good.
Victory tastes sweet.
Oh, it's so good. I'm so stoked. I've had a bit of a rough year last year and just always trying to get back on the bike and do something satisfying, and today was that day. So yeah, huge thanks to the Australian national team for giving me a go, Bike Exchange for giving me days off work, and everyone in the team who just was so good for me today.
It was a beautiful stage. I think the area is beautiful, and the course I really liked. It was really hard, but also there was a really race going on today. Like also teams wanted to attack, was a group in front, and I think we also played it very well with my team on the last climb.
I think the winning move was made midway up the climb. I just thought, I'm just going to keep turning my legs over, and then I'm going to bomb the descent.
And what about that descent? I mean, you went down it pretty quick. It wasn't super technical, but you were on the pedals the whole way.
Yeah, well, you couldn't really make the most of corners for speed, so I just thought I'll keep pedaling through them. And, you know, when you're by yourself, you can pick all your own lines, so that's what I did. I like corners.
She likes corners, and as it turns out, she likes going uphill really fast as well.
I mean, she's come from a downhill background, but she's certainly doing quite well uphill.
She takes out the win. She's on the top step of the podium. The biggest win in her career, ahead of Annemiek van Vleuten and Chloe Hosking. That is a world-class top 10.
It most certainly is. World champions Van Vleuten and Katrien Garfoot. Chloe Hosking, the big sprinter. Bronzina, double world champion of the past. She's had a great win.
This is Grace Anderson. She's the leader of the Victorian Government Best Young Rider classification. Bicycle being most aggressive, it could only be one person, and that's Chapman. For the Gatorade Sprint classification, in green, Chloe Hosking enjoying the moment on 16 points, ahead of Chapman on 10, Van Vleuten on 8. And the Gumbire World Queen of the Mountains, Chapman once again.
I mean, when you're off the front of the bike race, you tend to collect a few jerseys.
And the most important of all, it's the Let's Go Motorhomes yellow jersey.
Yes, presented there by Jerry Ryan, who's so much behind this race. but a happy, smiling new face on the block.
Importantly, in the general classification with one stage remaining, it's a 12-second advantage for Chapman over Van Vleuten, with Chloe Hoskin in third place at 1 minute and 3 seconds behind. It was against the odds, but what an extraordinary performance by Brodie Chapman, holding off the world champion, Annemiek van Vleuten. Kimberly, that was brilliant.
I loved it. Brodie Chapman was a downhill mountain biker and now just held off a world time trial champion to win the stage.
Did you really think she could hold on with just a 20-second advantage?
I thought she was gone. And so that's why it was so fantastic that she won today.
Phil, she goes into the final stage with a 12-second lead, but it's against the world champion Van Vleuten. Can Brodie Chapman hold on to yellow?
Well, what we know is that there are only 2 women now left in this race for the final yellow jersey. But what we saw was Australia find themselves a new superstar in women's cycling, because the ride was absolutely superb. Now, just that 12-second gap, and you've got the world champion and Brodie Chapman. I think 12 seconds, I think it'll be enough.
It might be enough. It's the final stage. It's in the heart of Melbourne. It starts at Alexander Gardens along the banks of the Yarra River, and it finishes on South Bank. It's Australia's Brodie Chapman up against the world champion Annemiek van Vleuten, and just 12 seconds separates them. Day one of the women's Jayco Herald Sun Tour, and a new star was born. Brodie Chapman taking the win ahead of the world champion, and today she faces a 1.6 kilometre individual time trial as the men also make a start, with Damien Housen wearing number 1 as the defending champion. Hello and welcome to Melbourne. We're on the banks of the Yarra River. I'm Matthew Keenan, joined by dual Australian Criterium champion Kimber Wells and Phil Liggett. Kimberly, yesterday, Brodie Chapman, she was outstanding. What a performance.
Yeah, fantastic performance by Brodie Chapman. She's 12 seconds in front of Annemiek van Vleuten today.
Phil, Annemiek van Vleuten, she is the world champion in the individual time trial.
She's the world champion, and she's a proud world champion, and of course she'll want to win. But having spoken to this 26-year-old newcomer from Australia, she also believes she can win today, and she's not taking second place for grabs.
Yeah, she's not just aiming to defend that yellow jersey, she's talking about trying to win the stage. But further back down the general classification, in the race for third place, it's only a couple of seconds separating Chloe Hoskin, who's on career best form, and the dual world champion Giorgia Bronzini. Who wins that battle?
That's going to be a great battle today. I mean, we've got some technical features in this 1.6 kilometre time trial, so it's going to be interesting to see who can throw it around some of those early tight corners, bring it home in the last 500 metres. It will be full gas.
And it's windy. A lot of the course it's a tailwind, so it will be really fast. After the women race, the men will get underway for the start of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour, where Damien Housen, he'll be wearing number 1 as the defending champion. On his team, there's also Esteban Chavez, affectionately known as the Smiling Assassin or the Colombian Kangaroo. Plus, we've got triple Olympic Games gold medalist Ed Clancy, Alex Frame from New Zealand, as part of a huge international field racing for yellow. The course that is in the heart of Melbourne. It starts at Alexandra Gardens on the banks of the Yarra River before it makes its way down to South Bank. They head out into the slight headwind before making a sharp left-hand turn, and then it's past the boat sheds where they have a chicane onto the final stretch through to South Bank. It's 1.6 technical kilometres.
So the women will go down the ramp 300-metre straight stretch, hit this corner, slam the brakes on. Look at this, left-hander, really sharp. The road widens back up, they go down another 300 metres and then turn left onto a footpath.
Yeah, it is a bit more technical than we thought. There's a tight first corner, and then going through the central part, there is quite a few little tight corners and a few bumps, and so you've got to really be paying attention to that because we're a fine line between crashing and making the podium.
So this is what I'm talking about. Look at this here, very narrow. It is literally a footpath. It comes up here, we're at the halfway mark, winds its way around, it goes out of sight, so you don't have good vision of where the path goes. And then it's onto the river and to the finish line. It will certainly decide the overall winner of the women's Jayco Herald Sun Tour.
Yeah, it's pretty narrow there, so I'd like to try and hug the barriers, but the risk with that is that they can move a little bit in the wind. So yeah, just try and stay protected, look up, pick your line through the corners by looking where you're going. I think it's pretty important when you're boxed. It's very easy just to stare down, but these corners especially require you to look through and really hold your line.
She will know the course well. She hasn't ridden it at race speed, but Kimberley, this is where she commutes to work each day.
Yeah, it's fantastic for Brodie Chapman. Home ground advantage. Let's hope that it's going to play out for her as the World Time Trial Champion tries to take those 12 seconds from her.
One of the earliest starters from the Wiggle High Five team. This is Rochelle Barbiera, the Italian. More noted as a sprinter, but this is the sort of course that does suit a sprinter.
Yeah, the sprinters are going to love the fact that today is short, sharp, shiny. They've got themselves through the hills yesterday, and now they have their time to show what it is that they're good at.
I'll tell you what, Kimberley, she's aiming at the time of early starter Trina Smith, who came with 2 minutes 15. And she is very, very close to a time that could drop it in the same second here, Matt. She's driving up the home straight and she's pulling quite a face. This is a serious effort.
And she can see the finish line in front of her. It's a long way from home. She's got a huge gear rolling. You can see by the way her hips are rocking and rolling backwards and forwards in the seat. She hits the line. She stops the clock. 2.38 seconds off the pace, but it puts her right amongst the leaders.
That was a fierce ride. You could really see her working hard in that home straight. Wouldn't be surprised if she's done really well.
This is one of her teammates, Annette Edmondson, and Phil, she arrives with great form, and this is a course that suits her.
I think she'll be ambitious today, and of course her brother's riding in the men's event as well. He'll be the last to start in their prologue time trial, and so she's going to do a good one. She's very, very successful on the track, and this year she's showing she can really ride well on the road.
And she hit that corner perfectly.
Yeah, that was a beautiful thing to see. I mean, Annette Edmondson is also about to go and race her track nationals, so this is the perfect wind-up for someone that's got to do team pursuing and individual pursuing and points races. Let's see what she can do.
Oh, it's a heavy program before she goes to the track nationals. She got a little bit loose through those corners.
Yeah, it looked like she might have had a bit of a mechanical issue there, maybe a problem with the chain when she hit that gutter.
And she's just dropped something off her bike as well. She can worry about that later on as she charges towards the line, challenging the best time. That last little throw as well. Annette Edmondson, she moves in to first place.
Terrific average speed, 43.1 kilometres on what is a very tight and tortuous circuit in the beginning. She has to be satisfied with that. She's got to wait on stage in the hot seat now to see what Matthias Mejias can do.
This is the one Cuban rider who is in the race. He's riding for the 2020 team, one of the American outfits. And it's his first tight corner. Threw it very smoothly.
Yeah, very smooth. We see with the 2020 team that they often have a lot of younger riders, but younger riders with big talent. Nicole Cranmer, who runs the team, definitely creates a great environment for these athletes to grow and hopefully go on to become Olympians one day.
A lot smoother through that corner than what we saw from Annette Edmondson. Here she comes towards the finish line. Mejias Garcia, the one Cuban in the race, riding for the American team, and she looks to be on a very good time. It's the time of Annette Edmondson that she's trying to beat. Buries their head over the final few metres, and now all she can do is wait, and the time puts her to the top of the leaderboard by a split second with 2 minutes 13.06.
That's amazing, but she had real style, this girl. Good for her. She should be very, very pleased with that. She's up on stage in second place at the moment.
This is Sabrina Stultons, who was very impressive in the Deakin University Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race. A bold move near the end where she tried to time trial to the finish on her own.
Yeah, maybe we're about to see her do that again today. In that Cadell's race, she had Katrin Garfield with her, Annemiek van Vleuten with her, and she thought, you know what? See you guys later. I'm going to go and try and win this race.
She's enjoyed her stay in Australia. And the Dutch, Phil, they're normally good at this sort of effort.
Well, yes, they say it's a flat country, which of course Holland isn't. It's quite hilly in South Limburg. But these long, tall girls are usually very, very good time trial riders.
And it reminds me of many of the criteriums that they ride, with the sharp corners, the acceleration out of the corner, the pigeons.
They're running their lives at the gauntlet there today.
That was a brave pigeon. Just momentarily got out of the way as Staltons now is charging towards the line, but looks as if she's just faded over the final few hundred metres. Yeah. It's never a good sign in a time trial, that sprint across the line in that manner.
No, a little ungainly towards the end, and so it proves, just a few seconds off the race lead, 2:16.31, still 42.2 kilometres an hour. That's pretty quick.
And only 3 seconds off the best time.
What we have to remember, Matt, is this is a long term now. They're gaining time, but only seconds before the race is over. It's the end we're really interested in today.
It is the final stage, the second of the stages in the women's race. This is Kate McElroy now. The last two starters, it will be second last to start Annemiek van Vleuten, then Brodie Chapman with that 12-second gap. And Kimberley, as we look at the gaps so far, it's pretty tight at the top of the leaderboard. That will give Brodie Chapman some confidence.
Yeah, certainly.
Oh, McElroy almost making a mess of that corner.
Yeah, just watching that back wheel in that corner. It's going to be a tight one for all of the riders coming through there today. But where there's only a few seconds in it, you stand to lose a lot if you mess up a corner. So the people doing well are doing everything right today.
Well, Kate McElroy, she made a mess of the first corner, but it hasn't put her off her game. She's still charging towards the line.
She looks like she's got a great cadence there in the final few hundred metres there. She can see the finish line now. There's no more corners. It's just about absolutely emptying the tank right to that finish line, gaining valuable seconds.
And that's not a smile, that's a grimace as Kate McElroy stops the clock. And the time of Matthias Garcia still stands 2 seconds quicker than McElroy. This now, though, is the New Zealand national champion, Georgia Williams.
Yes, national road race and time trial champion. I think all of New Zealand, who'll certainly be watching these pictures, Kimberley, will expect something special here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this must be Georgia's first time wearing the New Zealand time trial champion suit. So that's going to feel extra special for her today. And she's got her head tucked really quite nicely there. She's very aero. I think she's really going for it.
Oh, using her body weight to swing round that corner.
See that back wheel?
Yeah.
Skipped out on the corner. Totally fine. Doing the downhill like Brodie.
And hasn't thrown her at all. She's kept nice and calm and composed. And look at the way she's ducking and diving into the corners.
She completely shifts her body weight. That's the way to go around corners.
And she looks like Barry Sheen giving it a little skirt.
She does indeed.
Here she is, Georgia Williams. She's on to South Bank. She's charging towards the finish line. Matthias Garcia has got the best time. She watches on nervously. As the Kiwi national champion, she could be setting the leaderboard alight. That final little flurry to the finish line as she stops the clock with a time that will put her to the top of the leaderboard. So with the big favourite still to come, it's Georgia Williams with the new best time. 2 minutes and 11 seconds with an average speed of more than 43 kilometres per hour.
Over the years, the city of Melbourne has entertained all of the world's major sports events, from the Olympic Games to Commonwealth Games to World Cycling Championships. It is a city of great variety. The laneways, the shops, the food, the coffee houses, and of course the beautiful restaurants. And it is here where the Yarra River runs through at the middle, and it's down the South Bank where the race is held today.
Back in the action with the Kiwi national champion having the time to beat. Georgia Williams, she is the benchmark. Grace Brown, riding for the Rush women's racing team. She is one of the rising stars.
Grace Brown's had a fantastic summer. She's come fourth at the national championship, third in the road race, and here she is on a 1.6 kilometre time trial, hammering away.
She wishes it was 16 kilometres. That would be much more to the liking of Grace Brown. She's a name to remember. Does she challenge the time of Georgia Williams? Almost. less than 1 second off the pace of the Kiwi national champion.
Slots into third place with that ride, but there's still plenty of more riders to come. Looking at Tiff Cromwell now.
Well, this is Tiff Cromwell riding for the Quartermenta real estate team, and she is flying through the corners.
I mean, we've seen Tiff being fantastic with her bike handling in the road racing, but also in time trials too, doing great things there. Not surprising seeing her throw it around.
Early in her career, she was known really just as a climber, but she's much more than that. She's packing a bit of a sprint, and now she's time trialing brilliantly. Can she challenge the time of Georgia Williams? It will be close for Cromwell, but not quite.
Wow,
she's
that's a
at
good
0.15 of a second. That is desperately close.
Fantastic ride by Tiff Cromwell. She emptied the tank yesterday in the road race, done so again today.
Now we move on to the Dutch woman, the former Dutch national champion. This is Anuska Costa for the Wow Deals team.
Determined start there. It's very important to start, Kimber.
Very important to get up to speed as quickly as possible. There's so little road today, so you want to maximise your time at that high speed.
And look at the way she's reefing on the handlebars out of that tight left-hand turn.
Certainly just trying to make sure that she's keeping that speed high, jumping that little gutter there, beautiful move, and off into the narrowing pathway along the river here.
And this is an empty tank for Anuska Costa. She gets on a flight in a matter of 3 hours to head back to the Netherlands, and she's just off the pace, a half a second behind. It's so tight at the top of the leaderboard.
Fourth place as she crosses the line. She slots in behind Williams, Mejias and Cromwell.
This is Shannon Molseed, not in the colours of the Australian national champion, because that's in the road race where she's the national champion. This is the time trial. Former teammate of yours, what do you expect?
I think Shannon's going to want to really throw it around the corners today. She's a small rider, so in the windy conditions, she can actually punch through with a fair bit of speed. A little bit slower there in the corner, so maybe she's thinking about, I've got team camp coming up soon. I've qualified myself for Commonwealth Games. Being a little bit more conservative, having a look here.
With the tightness of the gaps between the top few in the race today, getting the corners right is crucial.
As I was saying before, you have to get everything right in order to do well on this time trial course today. So if you are holding back a little bit, the people that are winning, they're not holding back at all.
Shannon Molseed, what a summer it has been for her before she embarks on her season with the Tipco racing team. Well, she stops the clock with a time that she might be a little disappointed with.
But she's certainly got a lot to be excited about after a breakthrough moment in her career this summer.
Georgia Bronzini, she declared, Phil, before the start of the stage, that she's no time trialist. But look at the aggression as she goes down the ramp.
She's got to live with the time trial. She's a poorest sprinter and she's been twice a world champion. But when you ride a stage race, you've got to ride every type of discipline. So she needs a good time.
And she does. She's fighting, although it's a big ask to try and get a spot on the podium. There's a few very close with Chloe Hosking and that race for third.
Yeah, all of these riders are going to be trying to make themselves get closer and closer to that podium. Little bunny hop there from Bronzini. Beautiful bike skills.
Yeah, very nice indeed, yes, because any of these could pop out the woodwork with a good time and snatch third place in this race. But Bronzini herself, I think, looking at her body language here, this is not going to be a time she's going to be too pleased with, but nonetheless, she's completed the distance. A little bit of a sprinter's reaction there.
The tank is empty on the finish line for 1.6 kilometres. Georgia Bronzini, that won't be enough to get her into the top three in the overall classification.
No, you're right, 2 minutes 20 isn't enough, but the next woman, well, she is at the moment best of the rest, Chloe Hosking. She's won the sprint competition. Can she make the podium? She needs a very good time.
Well, she was third on the stage yesterday. She won the bunch sprint finish, and it was her teammates that got her back in contention because she was dropped by the favourites on the climb. That tells us one important thing about Chloe Hosking. She's a fighter.
Totally a fighter. She's a sprinter doing a prologue, so she's going to love this too. And such confidence from automatically qualifying for the Commonwealth Games with her performance at the Cadell Great Ocean Road Race.
Out of the saddle, sprinting once again. Now the finish line awaits. She's riding a huge gear and really muscling her way to the finish. She's in the red zone and she's trying to blow the lid off the time as well. Chloe Hosking, the sprinter, is charging to the finish line. Will it be enough? It will put her close and she's in contention for the podium as she's heavy on the anchors.
It's good.
It won't be a stage win, but it is quick.
It's good, 2:16.02. Georgia Williams still is the leader on the board, but this girl is already ahead of Chloe Hoskins. So Hoskins with that ride should finish third in this race, but can Katrin Garfoot get up and snatch it away from her?
She's the Australian time trial champion. She got the bronze medal at the World Championships in this event. She's one of the best in the world.
I mean, Katrin Garfoot's a clear favourite coming into any time trial scenario. You know she's going to just hunt down that road like a motorbike.
And as we said of Grace Brown, she'd much prefer if this was 16 plus kilometres as opposed to 1.6 kilometres.
Yeah, that'd certainly suit Kat Garfoot a lot more if it was a bit longer. But she's fast over short distances as well, so you can never really put a foot wrong with this lady.
It's an impressive performance. She is now challenging the time of Georgia Williams. Garfoot from the Quartermenta Real Estate team. She is targeting that time of the Kiwi champion. She crosses the line, and for Garfoot, the Australian champion, she moves into first place.
2 minutes, 11.04. And so the Australian time trial champion for a third year in a row, by the way, not long ago in Buninyong and Ballarat, is now on the leaderboard as the top dog.
Just 2 left to start. Now it's the world champion, Annemiek van Vleuten.
Huge.
The final countdown for the rainbow jersey. A little bit of a hop. It wasn't too smooth down the ramp.
Yeah, a little bit of a wobble. I'd like to think that she's just excited to be wearing the rainbow jersey of the World Championship here in Melbourne. Fantastic to see her out on course, wearing it for the first time.
Built 12 seconds. She slips and slides through that corner. She needs to make up 12 seconds on Brodie Chapman.
She does. I don't know if you noted, Brodie Chapman was already on the ramp right behind her, watching her to start. She really admires this girl. She can't believe she's finishing ahead of her by on the start list at the moment and yesterday. This is an incredible ride by the world champion. How nice is it to see the world champion's rainbow colours on the line? Well, she's smiling and the crowd are cheering. Now, what has she done as she crossed the line? Unbelievable, 2:9.62. She is the leader in the house and only one rider left to come.
The world champion beats the Australian champion with the Kiwi champion in third, and it's just the yellow jersey who wants to be the Jayco Herald Sun Tour champion to come. Brodie Chapman,
smiling.
Can you look any more
She's
relaxed?
Smiling, Kimberly.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone look more relaxed on a start ramp.
Well, there's no pressure. She does have the yellow jersey, but nobody expected her to be in this position, except perhaps for Brodie Chapman.
That's right. Fantastic riding by Brodie Chapman.
She started with 12 seconds to the good after a ride yesterday. She can afford to lose some, but not all.
Well, let's not forget, of course, she first started in cycling racing as a downhill mountain biker. And how quick is she through that first left-hand turn?
Super quick through that corner. Brodie Chapman, she showed us a beautiful descending yesterday. Before the stage started today, she said to me, "Why would I be conservative today? I want to go and win it."
Look at the way she sticks her leg out. She's still riding a mountain bike here.
And not just trying to defend yellow. She wants to try and win the stage. The odds are firmly stacked against her with the fatigue from yesterday. But Brodie Chapman, the time that she needs to worry about is the time of Annemiek van Vleuten with 2:09. So Chapman needs to stop the clock in a time of less than 2 minutes and 21 seconds. She won't be beating van Vleuten, but is she beating her in the race for yellow? It's not the stage, it's the overall classification. That will be enough for Brodie Chapman. 2 minutes and 16 seconds.
Unbelievable. Absolutely. She wins the event, salutes the crowd. The yellow jersey is hers for keeps now, and she's going to win by a total of 5 seconds of the 12 she had at the start.
And there she is embracing with the world champion, Annemiek van Vleuten. So Brodie Chapman, that bold move on stage one, that gives her the yellow jersey as the first winner of the Jayco Herald Sun Tour for women. The stage winner was Annemiek van Vleuten.
Brodie, is this a dream or what?
Oh, this is awesome. I think it's real. I mean, I feel pretty alive right now, so yeah.
You look spectacular the way you threw yourself around that course. You actually wanted to win the stage as well.
I was just trying to ride as fast as I could. I mean, there's some very fast bike riders out there, and I just enjoy it. Like, I try to keep a little bit chill in the corners, but then it's just super fun to go as fast as you can.
Now, you're in full-time employment. You've taken time out to be here, and you've beaten some of the best riders in the world.
Yeah, look, that's a pretty surreal feeling. I mean, I do spend a lot of time on the bike, and I'm lucky to have my colleague Taylor. He has been picking up all the slack for me since all these days off work, so I'm very lucky to work with a good team at Bike Exchange and Cycling Tips to support me through this. It's very rare to have employment people like that.
Now, where do we go from here now? Because you won the first event ever for the Herald Jayco Sun Tour.
Look, I'm just so stoked that there was a women's tour this year. Like I said, I remember watching this exact stage for the last few years, just wishing I could be part of it, and I want to go race in Europe now.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for getting around us today.
You're in Australia and you've been beaten virtually by an unknown Australian cyclist, Annemiek. Were you surprised as we are?
I checked already the results, and the national championships was also really strong, and I had a talk with her. She came back from an injury, so I think we have to watch this girl more next year. I think it's really great. Really deserved win from her yesterday.
Yes.
Annemiek van Vleuten, Champagne, that is the joys of victory. Her teammate, the Kiwi national champion Georgia Williams, was in third position. Katrin Garfoot was in second place. But Kimberly, that top three, national champions and the world champion, what class?
So many special jerseys in that top three.
And the team's classification, it was Quartermenta Real Estate ahead of Mitchelton Scott.
Big battle from those two teams for all of the Aussie summer.
And the best young rider, Georgia Williams, will be seeing a lot more of her. Queen of the Mountains classification for Gumbaya World, Brodie Chapman. This is what she started targeting when she initially broke away yesterday. The green jersey for the Gatorade points classification, that's Chloe Hosking. She'll be good at the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Chloe's prospects on the Gold Coast this year at Com Games.
The most important jersey of all, though, the yellow jersey. What can we say about Brodie Chapman?
Oh, that's beautiful. Look at her trying to hold that heavy, heavy Herald Sun trophy.
Her name will go on the honour roll. She gets the win 5 seconds ahead of Annemiek van Vleuten. Chloe Hosking rounding out the podium. It was then Katrin Garfoot and Georgie Williams inside the top 5. Kimberly, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And for Brodie Chapman, congratulations. What a victory. The men are up next.
The city of Melbourne is very much about lifestyle. In fact, it's been consistently rated as one of the world's most livable cities. Melbourne has a strong cultural and international heritage. There are a range of galleries, museums, both large and small. Like the Jayco Herald Sun Tour, it's a city steeped in culture. 65 years we've been enjoying this marvellous bike race.
When old bike riders get misty-eyed, talking about the good old days, it's the Jayco Herald Sun Tour that truly brings out the romance and drama of Australian cycling. Keith Rowley, he was the first winner in 1952. In 57, it was the great Russell Mockridge. While the 60s, they were dominated by Barry Waddell with a record 5 wins in a row. The now race director John Trevorrow and his great rival Graham McVilly, they dominated the 70s with 3 wins apiece. But the race is so much more than its colourful past. Tour de France winners Sir Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome, along with Baden Cook, Stuart O'Grady and Simon Gerrans, are recent additions to the honour roll.
This is absolutely amazing.
The 65th edition of the race will see Esteban Chavez on the hunt to become the first Colombian winner.
Esteban Chavez wins the race!
Having reached the podium in the tours of Italy and Spain, Chavez is one of the world's best climbers.
And I love when the people call me Colombian kangaroo.
And the course that awaits suits the smiling assassin. The now traditional prologue in Melbourne to South Bank via the Yarra River will decide the first yellow jersey. Stage 1, that sees the race make the journey from Colac to Warrnambool via the Great Ocean Road. And although it's the scenic route, there's barely a flat stretch of road along the way. From one traditional cycling town to another, Stage 2 is from Warrnambool to Ballarat. From a sea level start to an altitude of more than 400 metres, it's a day-long gradual climb. This is going to hurt. Stage 3 and the big mountaintop finish awaits. From the tranquility of the Mitchelton Winery in Nagambie to the beautiful but brutal Lake Mountain. A 20-kilometre climb at the end of a long stage. It's time for the climbers to shine.
And a yellow jersey awaits him.
It's then stage 4 at King Lake. For many Melburnians, King Lake is where they train and dream of greatness. On this final day of decision, someone's dream will be realised, another's will be crushed.
Alexandra Gardens hosting the start. Some of the teams making their way through to the sign-on, including Damien Housen wearing the glasses. He's the defending champion. Cameron Meyer has won the race before. And Mitchelton Scott, they have Esteban Chavez.
Yes, they call him the Joker, the way he smiles there, but this man is terrific on the hills. He may not like this prologue too much, though, that we're about to see. Ed Clancy on the left might.
For JLT Condor, this is the Quartermenta real estate team. Callum Scottson is another contender. Course for the men, it's exactly the same as what we saw for the women. 1.6 kilometres, starting in Alexandra Gardens. They head away from the city just momentarily before the tight left-hand turn, past the boat sheds, onto the boulevard along South Bank, right next to the Yarra River. It's a tough 1.6 kilometres.
Well, talk about fast and furious. 1.6 kilometres down the start ramp, 300 metres dead straight, sharp left-hander, another left-hander, and then it winds its way onto the river. We've got a few track specialists, a few time trial specialists. It is anybody's bike race.
We thought it was going to be technical, and we've rocked up and it's even on a bike path now. So, look, I think it's going to be interesting, but the good thing is everyone's doing the same course. So it's not like someone's got an advantage, but I guess at the end of the day it comes down to how much you want to risk it and how much you want to win.
You know, if you carry decent speed around the corners and you're brave enough in that off-road section around there, I think there'll be a lot of people that can have a good go. But yeah, for me personally, I'm looking forward to it. It's pretty exciting if nothing else, so can't wait to get stuck in.
I wish I'd brought my bloody body armour rocking up here and seen the corners, but I think at the end of the day it is what it is.
I guess the key is to sort of punch out the start gate, make some easy time there. Out the first left-hander, there's easy time to be made, getting up to speed. After that, I think everyone's just going to have to wing it a bit when they get to the technical stuff, because no one's really going to know how fast or you can go or how slow you're going to have to go. But as soon as you get to the last 600 metres, it's just to turn your brain off and pedal. So I look forward to that bit as well.
Well, don't turn your brain off just as yet, Ed, because you've got a few corners to get through before you hit that point. The triple Olympic Games gold medalist, this is the sort of effort that suits him.
Yes, a very early start too for Ed Clancy, and the weather is dry. It wasn't dry earlier today, but it is now as he makes his way. Big, powerful British cyclist who's done everything on the track. Now can he do it on the road?
And you'll note that he's using a rear tail light, as all the riders from JLT Condor are. That's just about raising rider awareness and rider safety. This is a team that has helped so many riders make the step up towards the next level. But Ed Clancy, this is a team where he imparts his knowledge to those young riders. He is performing brilliantly. Sure, he's an early starter, but he is on target for an impressive time. This team, they've been close to the yellow jersey by just fractions of a second in the past, but the Olympic Games gold medalist, Ed Clancy, he has stopped the clock with a time of 1 minute 54.95, and that will take some beating.
Well, that is an amazing time, because in fact the best time anywhere nearest to him was 7 seconds slower, but he's only amongst the first 10 out of the start house.
This is the flying mullet, the Kiwi, Shane Archbold, riding for the Irish team Aqua Blue. He first made a name for himself on the track, but he really got noticed internationally 2 years ago at the Tour de France when he crashed, fractured his pelvis, and still somehow managed to finish the stage.
It's unthinkable. Long flowing hair there as he gets around that bottom corner, runs down the side of the river here.
It's a new team this year for Shane Archbold. He's a rider that we expect to see in the action when it comes to any of the sprint finishes. Perhaps tomorrow into Warrnambool will suit him. In the meantime, he wants to get close to that time of Clancy, keep himself within striking distance of the yellow jersey as he bobs and weaves his way through towards the finish line. Archbold, he won't beat the Brit, but it will be quick. He's a little over 5 seconds off the pace.
Which isn't bad off a rider like Ed Clancy, I must confess. Let's remember, this is the first day now as we go through to Sunday. So it's a 5-day race. It's 725 kilometres in total. This 1.6 kilometres might, for some, seem insignificant next Sunday.
Cam Bailey riding for Benelong Swiss Wellness. It's an old team with a new sponsor, and this team has produced so many of the stars of Australian cycling. Most chiefly amongst them, Richie Port, Nathan Huss. They've gone on to ride at the World Tour level. Cam Bailey, he's been a little ill the last week or so. Let's see how he bounces back.
Well, everybody's aiming at that amazing time by Ed Clancy, who sat on the stage watching every pedal rev with great interest here.
Cam Bailey for Benelong Swiss Wellness. The sponsor, they've got a corporate tent set up onto the left-hand side. They'll be yelling loudly as he makes his way by. Bailey is riding strongly. That's a good time. He's inside the 2-minute barrier. It's an impressive performance, 1:59.9.
48 kilometres an hour. Not quite the 50 kilometres an hour of Ed Clancy.
This is Esteban Chavez. He likes the mountains, not the individual time trials.
I spoke to him before the warm-up and he wasn't expecting to do a great time, but he is looking forward to the race this week. He'll go well in the mountain ranges.
Chavez, the smiling assassin, the Colombian kangaroo. He's already got so many nicknames. The time trial he doesn't like. The mountains that await, he does like those. 2 minutes and 8 seconds for Chavez. Not great, but not bad. This is Theo Yates now coming through for the Drapac Education First team.
Well, he's gone through those corners quick.
He's gone through very quickly. They've got this Australian Under-23 champion on their team, which is Cyrus Monk. He'll have high hopes for today's stage and also for the rest of the tour. For Yates, this is a solid performance, but he's already outside the time of Ed Clancy. Yates stops the clock in a time of 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
Still ending around 2 minutes at this on the eve of the next 4 days of long-distance road racing is fine. This looks like Kundekoort on the start house, the Dutchman who lives occasionally in Australia.
And just behind him, number 1, is Damien Housen, the defending champion. He's only moments away from getting started. Kundekoort, he was 14th on Sunday down in Geelong in the Cadell Evans Great Ocean Road race. Afterwards, he was disappointed. He said he did everything right for 163 kilometres, made a mess of the last 800 metres. No problem so far, though, for Kundekoort.
Puffing and blowing around the corner there. Red bike, new colours this year, red colours of Trek.
The Dutchman, he will know this course better than just about anybody else in the race. His wife is from Melbourne. They live in St Kilda when they are throughout the off-season. As de Koort is charging towards the line, that last little throw, it might have grabbed him half a second. The time for Kundekoort, 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
They're all landing in the same slot, so there's a lot of riders going to go out on the opening day locked together on same time.
This is Michael Potter now. For a new team on the block, ACA rides Sunshine Coast. This is the team that was set up by Ben Kirsten, Commonwealth Games gold medalist, along with Matt Wilson, who's working here as the sports director for the Mitchelton Scott team, and himself as a former winner of this race.
Nice bit of cornering there, sat right back on the bike to alter the centre of gravity.
He rode brilliantly at the National Championships recently in Buninyong. That was in the under-23 category. He's got a lot more depth to contend with here. But Potter is on a good time. This could be close to being inside the 2 minute mark. The young team on the block, they could cause a few surprises throughout the next week of racing. Michael Potter slides on through. Does the time start with a 1? Not quite.
Oh.
Almost 2 minutes exactly.
Yes, he's pleased with that one. You could tell when he crossed the line. Just a nice timed effort, that one.
Cyrus Monk, the Australian under-23 road champion. Not completely confident in the timing system. He's got the Garmin on the go as well, just to be sure.
There'll be no appeal. The clocks will reveal all.
He was so aggressive in the final stage of this race last year, and that gave him a lot of confidence for 2017. He spent some time with the senior team from this Drapac squad, and that was towards the back end of last year. He was a little unlucky not to get a contract with that squad, but he is knocking firmly on the door now. Cyrus Monk, he goes through, and the time for Monk, it is 2 minutes and 3 seconds.
He might have expected a little bit more than that. I don't think he should worry too much about that.
This is Graham Briggs, the old man of the team, as he refers to himself.
No, but he is, but he's a married man with a family back home. He always comes over to Australia to prepare. He's a very good circuit race rider, been a British champion a number of times. And they say he's not a bad time trialist. Well, we're about to find out.
Oh, just sweeps through that corner. It looked a little wobbly, but he manages to get through safely. He has said that the only stage in the race that suits him is this one. It's all or nothing.
Well, the corners will help his start, but his time on the halfway mark is a good one. He's challenging the leaderboard here, not the leader though. He's down on that.
Ed Clancy has the best time with 1:54.9. There's only one other rider that's gone inside the 2 minute mark. That was Cam Bailey. But now with Briggs in, you can make it 3 as Briggs moves into second with 1:58.8.
The city of Melbourne, as it towers over Port Phillip Bay, the stadia surrounds it, from the Commonwealth Games to Olympic Games to the Hisense Arena, and of course the recent scene of the Open tennis contest, won by the irrepressible Roger Federer. Looking down on the Yarra River and on Federation Square, where once 80,000 people welcomed Cadel Evans as Australia's first ever winner of the Tour de France back in 2011. But now the race is underway as we continue with the prologue to the Jayco Herald Sun Tour.
This is Sam Crome from the Bennelong Swiss Wellness team. He's had a great start to the season. 6th at the National Championships. That was a good ride by Sam Crome. 2 minutes exactly, just under 48 kilometres per hour. He's off to a really good start.
That'll keep him right amongst the leaderboard going out on stage 1 tomorrow when we go out of Colac down towards Warrnambool.
Mads Pedersen now in the start house. The big Dane riding for Trek Segafredo. This is one of the riders that Ed Clancy, the man with the fastest time, has spoken about repeatedly as a one that could threaten his time.
You might know something we don't, because the way he's gone round that corner, he really did corner very quickly. You would have thought he was on a bank velodrome there as he runs down the Yarra.
Well, he won't like the big mountains that are still to come in this race, Mads Pedersen, but he does, by the look of him, really like this course. He is flying through these corners.
Well, he's taken a few chances, but he's showing terrific bike control here. He gets up to speed very quickly. He's up towards the finishing line. It looks good.
And he's on target, 1:54.9. That's the time to beat of Ed Clancy. The last final sprint through to the finish. Close, desperately close. 0.01 of a second for Mads Pedersen, just off the pace.
Oh boy, he'll analyse that for the nights to come, because he's just behind Clancy, who has breathed a big sigh of relief.
Chris Harper now, the bronze medalist from the Australian Championships, riding for Bennelong Swiss Wellness. He doesn't stand a chance of winning the time trial today, but he needs to stay somewhere near the likes of Esteban Chavez, maybe even in front, because he does stand a chance for the final yellow jersey.
Absolutely he does. He had a very good National Road Series, Road Championship, and now he's showing us here he's thinking long term.
The 23-year-old, he's had a great start to the season. So close to a gold medal at the National Championships. In the breakaway with his good friend Alex Edmondson. Edmondson won, Harper finished third. He's closing on the finish line. The time of Ed Clancy is safe, but he'll be quicker than Esteban Chavez, and he'll be right up amongst the favourites for the final yellow jersey, as it's Harper with a time of 2 minutes and 2 seconds. That's solid.
It is solid, and there's a lot of guys getting in that 2 minutes, 2 second bracket.
This is Matthew Gibson now, one of the young riders from JLT Condor.
Now the team are talking him up.
And they keep producing quality young riders.
They do, and they love coming to Australia at this time of the year to hone their form for the long season back in Europe.
Of all the riders from the JLT Condor team, not one of them look as if they're not going to enjoy this prologue.
Well, look at the face of this youngster. He's just racing into those corners, hardly touching his brakes. He's just checking. Wow, but that was a fine piece of cycling, and he's only a youngster.
There's no most aggressive prize in an individual time trial, but Gibson might be on target to collect it with how aggressive he has attacked each of those corners. Looking for the time of his teammate, 154.9. Ed Clancy watches on. He knows that he's safe. Gibson will not be getting the best time, but he could be the quickest amongst the youngest in the race for the white jersey. It is 158.8.
That's packing him in. That's 3 great rides from JLT Condor.
An average speed of more than 48 kilometres per hour. This is Lasse Norman Hansen now. Oh, a little bit messy
sluggish,
on that left-hander.
I agree. He's a little bit sluggish coming out there. Looks better now.
The back brake just locked up ever so slightly with the disc. Perhaps a little too sensitive.
He's checking himself twice as he goes in. Gets a bit of a speed wobble, but he's close. He's very close to the time of the top 2 here.
He looks to the scoreboard at the finish to watch the clock. He's sprinting for the time of Clancy. This will be desperately close for Hansen. Is he there?
Oh.
Now he waits for confirmation. It is almost, but not quite.
It's unbelievable.
0.6 of a second off the pace of Clancy.
He's just realised it. We've got 3 riders within 3/4 of a second of each other.
This is Michael Hepburn now making a start. Former world champion on the track in both the team time trial and the individual time trial. He's a man that's got the power, but does he have the bike handling skill for this course? A lot smoother through that corner than Hansen.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ed Clancy now, he was sort of 10th when he set this all up. Now we're getting towards the last 10 riders of the race. He's still on the leader's chair.
We still have a few of the big pre-race favourites to come. Ian Bibby, Alex Frame, Alex Edmondson amongst them. This is Hepburn now charging towards the line, and it will be close, but not quite close enough. He's outside the time of Clancy. It's good, but not great from Hepburn.
Now 4 seconds outside, so he's just on 2 minutes again.
We'll see a lot more of Michael Hepburn, particularly doing the work for the climbers on that team, like Chavez and Damien Housen. This is Anthony Giacopo now about to make a start. One of the unsung heroes of Australian cycling.
I've watched this guy be so successful, and he seems to fly under the radar of all the media. This guy's a really good rider.
Has been the Australian Criterium champion. He's been close in the road race as well at the National Championships. He rides such a small gear. He gets on top of it really quickly. Smooth pedaling action. Quick through the corners. He's not making any mistakes.
He's riding on the tops too, on the brake levers.
You would expect him to be on the drops, but he gets through there nice and smoothly. Now for Giacopo, it's engine time. How much punch can he pack as he goes for the time of Clancy? And this is quick from Giacopo. Again, the quiet achiever. This is a solid performance. It will put him inside the top 5, and he is at 0.01 of a second off the pace. Desperately close for Giacopo.
That is an amazing ride for him, and again, as you say, he now slots into 4th place at the moment.
Down to the final few starters. This is the 5th last rider to start, and Ian Bibby, the teammate of Ed Clancy. This is the rider that Clancy tipped before the race to win the stage.
Well, Bibby has got the best credentials to take out the race overall for the JLT Condor. He needs a good time here to send him off tomorrow in a high position overall.
Well, from memory, he was 4th on the stage last year. The top 3 finishers in front of him aren't here this year. Has he got the legs to do it? Doesn't look as if it's going to be Ian Bibby's day. He's close, but not quite close enough. The time of Clancy, 1:54. It's standing the test of time.
Another solid time by the JLT Condor team. Another man inside. I think they've got 4 or 5 of the riders inside 2 minutes. Tremendous riding by that team.
And this is one of their former teammates. This is Alex Frame, now riding for Trek Segafredo. He gets the go-ahead down the ramp. It's smooth.
It's a big test bed for Alex now because he's joined a World Tour team this year from JLT Condor. They're cheering him on as well because they like to see progress, and this is a man now heading possibly towards the Tour de France within 2 years.
Well, Ed Clancy has said he wishes his former teammate all the best with finishing in second place behind him, if he can get there. But Frame doesn't want second, he wants first.
Well, he's pushing them close. He's inside 2 minutes, I think, here at the moment at the first check. Let's see what he comes up home with.
Well, he's looked so composed up until this point, and now it is a maximum effort for Alex Frame, the Kiwi, chasing the Brits. It's the Olympic champion with the time to beat. It's 1:54 of Clancy, and it's not quite quick enough for Alex Frame, but he is desperately close. Again, less than a second off the pace, but it's not fast enough.
It is in to fourth place for him there.
Fourth place for Alex Frame, within a second of the yellow jersey. That is so tight. The last starter, the Australian road champion. This is Alex Edmondson.
2 times a world team pursuit champion, so he's fast over short distances, but now he's a road rider, and he might find he hasn't quite got the speed. We'll see. He's the last man to go, and he's the only man that can take care of Ed Clancy now.
And when Clancy has been winning gold medals at the Olympics in the team's pursuit, it's this man who's been in second place collecting the silver medal. Now is his chance for redemption. Through that corner smoothly. All that it is the flat, straight run through to the finish line for Edmondson. Desperate final few hundred metres. The time of Clancy has been sitting in the hot seat nervously. He was the 10th rider to start. He's been waiting all evening, and now it's just Edmondson to finish. And the final throw to the line, another ride that is close, but it's not close enough. He's 1.75 of a second off the pace, so Ed Clancy goes out the winner.
And Alexander Edmondson drops into only 6th place. There's the man who's won.
Brilliant performance by Ed Clancy, one of the elder statesmen of the race. Experience has delivered today.
Anything that happens now is a bonus. I'm not sure if they're giving time bonuses for the sprint tomorrow. If it's a bunch sprint and there's someone within 10 seconds that wins the stage and I'm nowhere in the top 3, and it's all over. But anything from here is a bonus. I'm over the moon, and if we can hang on to it for another day, that'd be ace. If not, it's been a great race already.
Norman Hansen, second place. Clancy on the podium with Pedersen in second position. Norman Hansen it is who's in third place, and it was 0.71 of a second separating the top 3. This is Clancy's teammate, Matthew Gibson. He's got the Visit Victoria white jersey. What a day for the team.
For the best young rider, they've had an incredible start to this event. The best they've ever had, and it's the yellow jersey to take out tomorrow on the road from Colac down to Warrnambool on the shoulders of Ed Clancy.
Being presented by Tom Salem, who's the chairman of the organising committee for this great race. It is Clancy, the winner, ahead of Pedersen, Norman Hansen, and then Frame, followed by Giacopo rounding out the top 5. It's in the Australian champion, Alex Edmondson, in 6th place. Clancy, he's got the yellow jersey to defend. Stage 1 and the open roads await tomorrow as the race goes from Colac through to Warrnambool.